Good morning. My name's Ed Armand Trout. I'm the pastor here at Avondale United Methodist Church. Our scripture for today is from Mark. It's chapter 10, verses 35 through 45. And James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What do you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in your glory." Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or to be baptized with the baptism with which I'm baptized?" And they said to him, "We are able." And Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those whom it has been prepared." And when the 10 heard it, they began to be indignant at James and John. And Jesus called them to him and said to them, "You know that those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great ones exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you, but whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as ransom for many." So I called this message Personal Warts. And I think one of the things, and I'm going to kind of do this backwards here today, but I think I want to read from Matthew 23, which is this same scripture, but from Matthew. Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee, so see the difference here? In Mark, the two brothers go, but in this one, the mom goes. Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee come up to him with their sons, and kneeling before him, she asked him for something. And he said, "What do you want?" She said to him, "Say that these two sons of mine are to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in the kingdom." Jesus answered them. And so in Matthew, the mom ends up being the greedy person wanting stuff. In Mark, it's the two brothers. And so we don't really know who did what, if it was the mom or the brothers, but it seems likely that the brothers really did it on their own. I mean, they weren't kids, so they would have done it. And so what we see here is this honesty of the Gospel of Mark. So it's not that we make the mom the bad guy here, but they're the ones that are kind of being ambitious. And so we see warts and all. We see that James and John are just ordinary people. They have things they want. But what we can learn in this is that we don't have to be special to be a change maker in the world. We don't have to be a king. We don't have to be, the most brilliant person in the world. It just kind of tells us that we're all in the same boat, and we all have this opportunity to make changes in the world. So James, a little background on James and John, they were part of the inner circle. There's a couple times where just part of the disciples go off with Jesus. They're always part of that. It's believed that they were a more well-to-do family than the rest of the disciples. They probably were a little more ambitious based on this. Jesus had just told them about how they're going to go to Jerusalem. He's going to be betrayed. He's going to be hung on a cross. And then they ask this. So they have this total failure to understand what Jesus is going to be to the world. So their thoughts of a Messiah are this power and glory, where he's going to be more of a military leader. So they're still confused. They don't really understand what's going on. But no matter the amount of their confusion, they never really doubted that Jesus would end up triumphing in the end. So there's two things here when Jesus responds to them. One is about the cup. So that cup represents the life and experience that God gives to all of us. I was watching a show last night, and they asked them if they could go back in time and relive something, what would they do? And one of the people that was being interviewed was Robert Kennedy Jr., and he talked about going back to be with his dad they would do walks and canoe and stuff, and he said he'd like to have another chance to do that. But one of the guys said, "I've met people that when I was growing up, I thought I'd never have the opportunity to meet and talk with people and do things." And he said, "I just wouldn't want my life to be any different." And so this cup is representing that, your life, whatever it is, and the experience that God makes available to all of us. Now, not all experiences are good. Not all experiences are bad, but it's It's the good and the bad that makes us who we are. The baptism in this case is really representing this terrible experience that Jesus is going to go through, and he's already told him about. And so for us, we have things in our lives that are not great. Some are awful. But those good and bad things ends up making us the people that we are. However, God works with us through those things. And so what Jesus ends up telling him here in the end is that it's not up to him. This request, like all requests, are really up to God to decide. So he's not able to do that. It's up to God. And so this request, once everybody else in the group finds out, they're mad. Now, they're probably mad because they didn't get there first and ask the same question, but they're mad because they somehow think that the two brothers are trying to, get one up on the rest of them. And so that's not any different than what happens now. So I think there's two things that we can see here. One is when people do things like the brothers did, they're really looking for power. We have people, we're going to have an election here in a couple of weeks. Some people run because they want the power. Some people run because they want the position, the notoriety. I'm not sure they always want to do the work that comes with it, but they want the title, the prestige, whatever word you can think of in here, they're looking for that. What Jesus is telling them is that world power stuff isn't valuable. What really is important is the service that we do to others that help people. So I don't know what you do in your life. I'll give you an example of something I did this week. So I'm involved with Kiwanis in Indiana. I have a new club that I'm quasi-responsible for in Portland that just started on October the 1st. I met with them last week. They had a speaker there, and I can't remember the name, but basically she interviews children that have had some kind of crime committed against them, whatever that crime is, and she coordinates all that stuff that goes along with it. So it used to be that a social worker would interview the child, then the police would interview the child, then a prosecutor would interview the child, then a defense person would interview the child, then the child would go to court. And so it was very traumatic. I mean, it was just, and you have kids, the one they were giving an example of was 5. And that just seems like an awful experience. So what they've done, they set up this organization, and basically she coordinates an interview with a person, but they put all those things that everybody else I just mentioned would want together. The Jay County and Randolph County are the last 2 counties in Indiana that have that for whatever reason. And she's at the end asking for stuff. So she'll take money, but she said, we could just use crackers, stuffed animals, stuff like that. Well, I have a friend who owned a toy store, saved a Beanie Baby for every Beanie Baby that was made, and now they're trying to get rid of all that stuff. And we've been giving those to Riley Children's Hospital, and they're a little backed up on them. And so I called her and said, hey, would you and your daughter want to give these? And she's from Randolph County originally. Would you be willing to give some of these to this agency in Randolph County? And she goes, sure. So she's getting them together. We'll get them to them in the next week or two. If I'm not there because of the service I try to help with kids in Kiwanis, then I don't hear about this, and we don't get those dolls, those stuffed animals, to that agency. Now, they still could have gone to Riley, but my guess is Riley, just because the notoriety gets a lot more stuff like that. And so for us, sometimes when we do service, we think we're going to do one thing, but because we're there, we end up with the opportunity to do another. The question then for us is just like there, I was sitting in the meeting, I could have just said, excuse me, I could have said nothing and just kept giving the stuffed animals to Riley Hospital, because I'm going to go to Riley Hospital and volunteer for something else. So it's going to be easier for me to get to Riley. But it seems in this case that I was there for a reason. So in the Bible study this week, we're studying Esther. And if you've never read Esther, I suggest you read it. It's only 10 chapters. It's like a 30-minute read, 45 at the most. But Esther has an opportunity to help the Jewish people of her country. And she doesn't want to do it because there's a possibility that she could be harmed, killed for trying to do that. And her uncle tells her, maybe you've just been put here in this place for this time. And I think when we do service, that's what God does for us. We're not always doing exactly maybe what we wanted to do, but God put us there to do what God wanted us to do. The question for us is if we pay enough attention to know when God is directing us to do it, or if we ignore it because it's really not something we want to do, and we were more interested in the worldly power that the brothers were interested in to begin with. So as you go through your work week, think about when you do service work, are you doing it because you're trying to get power and prestige, notoriety, or are you doing it because you think God's asking you to do that, to lead you to that service? So here at Avondale, we meet every Sunday at 11 a.m. Service starts. On Tuesdays, there's an Alcohol Anonymous group that meets here at 5:30. It's both men and women for 5:30 to 6:30. Every Thursday, we serve a community meal, so you're welcome to come to that. On the second Thursday of the month, Second Harvest brings their mobile market, and again, that's available to anyone, not just in the neighborhood, but anyone that's watching the video. We have Holy Communion on the first Sunday of the month normally. If you would like us to bring communion to you, but you're not able to come to church, give me a call at 765-749-4354, and we'll get that arranged for you. Whether you're at home, nursing home, whatever, we can probably make that happen. If you want to do that, again, my number is 765-749-4354. We're glad you watched the video, and we certainly would welcome you to come to church at any time here at Avondale. We're at the corner of 10th and Sampson, 1314 West 10th Street. Parking lot is on the north side of the building, and the doors off the parking lot are the doors that are open and that people normally come through. We look forward to seeing you, and thanks for watching the video.